While I think that ball pythons are some of the best beginner reptiles in the entire industry, there are some people who think that I am dead wrong. So, for this week, we are going to dive into 3 flaws in the argument that ball pythons are not good beginner pet reptiles. And we are also going to hit on one point that I 1000% agree with. And that point isn't that they are finicky eaters. Anyways, my name's Steven with Leviathan, and let's get to it. So, by the time that this video comes out, I think it's been 2 weeks since we did the vlog where we went down to Bob Vu's with Brittany and Andrew of Ready Check Reptiles, and we tried balut for the first time. But while we were down there, we did a little bit more than just trying some slightly developed baby chickens in the egg. And we were able to experience Brittany and Andrew's very first time seeing snake eggs. So while we were there, Bob pulled a clutch for them that had just hatched, and we saw some slugs as well from a clutch that didn't go so well. But that's what we're going to be covering for this vlog, so let's get to it. The first point of contention when it comes to ball pythons being amazing beginner pet reptiles is that the side that says that ball pythons are great beginner pet reptiles says that ball pythons as a species have fairly low maintenance and that you only have to feed them once every week or once every 2 weeks once they get up to size. And that the fact that they are not social creatures means that if you travel a lot and you can't be home for days on end, for the most part, your ball python is going to be okay. And with the fact that they only eat once a week, they are essentially only having a bowel movement roughly once a week or so. So it's fairly easy to clean up after them. But when it comes to the people who say that ball pythons are not good beginner pet reptiles, they say that the ball python has to have a high enough humidity in order to shed correctly. And they say that ball pythons can be finicky eaters, and because of this, they are not a good first pet reptile for somebody. And in my opinion, I think that the flaw in both of these situations is that the people who are against ball pythons being good beginner pet reptiles are saying that it has to be 1000% as easy as possible, and where essentially the keeper has to do no work in order for them to be a good beginner species. And in my opinion, I think that that doesn't make it a good beginner species. Instead, when somebody is getting their first reptile and they've only had, let's say, cats or dogs in the past, I think that there should be a little bit of a learning curve in order to understand how a reptile is different than a mammal. And because of this, I think that ball pythons provide just enough of a challenge where they are still going to be easily understood by everybody who gets one, but they are going to let them know that ball pythons are different than most of the common pet species that everybody gets as they're growing up. And because of this, because of the difference in care that is required, I think that is the perfect animal to understand how all of the other species can work and how they differ from a ball python. So that way, if later on down the road, a pet keeper decides that they want to get into other species, the experience that they get from a ball python is going to be applicable and help them level up and step up to other species later on. Before we move on from the husbandry subject though, the finicky eaters is a criticism that happens quite a bit for the ball python world. And the reason why I think that ball pythons get this criticism quite a bit is that in the wild, ball pythons are not eating every single week. Instead, their metabolism is built to where they can find food maybe even once a month in the wild, and that is still enough for them to grow and thrive long term. But in captivity, we feed our animals much more frequently than this, and this can result in situations for new keepers where if an animal skips a meal once, twice twice, maybe even 3 or 4 times in a row, if you're feeding them weekly, it can really stress them out, because again, most keepers, when they're brand new, don't have experience with a species that could go that long without eating and it be perfectly okay. But even with all of this said, it is somewhat common for ball pythons to go on hunger strikes where they won't eat for 2, 3, maybe even 4 months in a row. And while this isn't the norm, it definitely does happen, and if you get a ball python, you should expect that at some point in their lifetime that they will go on a hunger strike like this. It may be that you have a female and that once she is an adult that she is starting to grow follicles because she was preparing herself to lay a clutch of eggs. And when they grow follicles, they go off feed because there's not enough room in their bodies for meals, so they don't want to eat. Or it could be a male where once they get to adulthood and they decided that they want to breed, they can be so focused on wanting to breed that they have no interest in eating. And while both of these are things that happen with this species, they are completely normal and they are natural parts, and it's just a fact that it will happen, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it is something that you need to be worried about as a keeper. Just simply tracking their weight and understanding if they have lost a significant amount of body condition, then maybe it might be a situation where you need to bring them to a vet or put them from a larger enclosure into a smaller one, as that is often a trick that will get them to get back on feed.
But okay, never seen eggs before, so let me pull 2 clutches with you. I like that he did this. One of my guys got like, hey man, I don't want to have to put these as 1 clutch, but I'll just put it like that. That works. Black blood cell confusion, loud, metaxanthic. Okay, those look good. So to pull these, let me check this clutch pretty quick while I'm at it. Someone's sticking his head out. We'll look at those later. They're super GHI sunset hide something clutch.
Super GHI sunset hide?
Maybe.
Oh, what?
Let's go look at some eggs.
Debate point number 2 is the temperament of a ball python. And for the side that says that ball pythons are amazing, one of the points that they say is that ball pythons are fairly docile, they are easily handleable, and because of this, it is a great species in order to start with, because it's very unlikely that they are going to be so scary and so defensive all of the time that you can't hold them. So you can interact with the animal and you can build up a relationship with the animal, at least on your side. I don't know if the ball pythons feel that relationship. But on the side that says that ball pythons are not good beginner pet reptiles, they say that the temperament of a ball python is fairly secretive, that they want to hide and they don't want to be seen as much in their enclosures. So if you get a ball python, you're probably not going to see it very often, and when you do see it, it's essentially a pet rock and it doesn't really do much of anything. But at least in my opinion, I would much rather have a pet rock that is docile and is okay with me holding them than an animal that is going to try to eat my face every single time that I open up the enclosure. But one caveat I would say is that every single animal does have a different personality, and there are some that are really social and really good, really explorative, and there are others that are a little bit more shy, a little bit more defensive, and it depends on the animal that you have. But in general, I think that ball pythons are some of the best animals at being handled when it comes to the reptile hobby.
So one of my employees, Aaron, his kid comes over here pretty much every day because he's not in school yet. And every day by like after lunchtime, he's like, can we play the cars yet? Because we don't let him play with it until after lunch.
I like the greenery. I know.
Yeah.
Little popcorn.
Look how fancy we are. You see all that?
Oh,
Yeah.
those at Southeast?
Yeah, how fancy. I don't know where those came from.
Didn't you say you were going to
It's
do the
just
carnivorous plants?
So those are all carnivorous up there.
Plants?
Yeah, those are all pitchers, and then I have them in the baby room too, and it's definitely keeping all the fruit flies down. Those things can eat more fruit flies and take up less energy than those bug zappers.
So so you have grow lights on them?
Yeah, so those are grow lights there.
And
And
how often are you watering them? Like every day, or because aren't they like
that's
super?
a good question for Ryan.
Debate point number 3 are the morphs in the ball python world. So, for the side that says that ball pythons are great, the fact that there are hundreds of different colors and patterns that you can play with when you are getting into the ball python world, so that way you can get an animal that is completely unique from pretty much everything else that you see and is absolutely beautiful. Depending on the exact genes that you get in your animal, it can look as perfect as it does as a baby all the way throughout its entire life with genes like albino or bell combinations or things like this. But the people who say that ball pythons are not good beginner pets is that there are some genes that are thousands and thousands, over $10,000 just to buy. And because of this, it is a very risky situation because you might buy an animal that is worth $5,000, $10,000, $15,000 and that animal 2, 3, maybe 4, 5 years later is worth a fraction of what it was when you purchased it. And while I do think that this is a reality of the ball python world due to the supply and demand nature of the breeding industry, I think that if you are looking at getting a ball python as a pet, realistically, the resale value of your pet shouldn't really matter in my opinion, because you shouldn't be getting a ball python with the idea that you are going to try to flip and sell it 2 or 3 years later. Instead, if you buy a ball python, they live for about 20 to 30 years. You should be doing it because you think that you want to have this animal for the long run. And it is okay if you need to rehome an animal at some point in time, but I don't think that you should be buying a pet ball python if you think that you don't want it or won't want it in 2 or 3 years, and therefore you are going to plan to resell it. In that case, I think that maybe a different reptile might be better for you. But with all of this said, I think that the plethora of choices when it comes to colors, to patterns, and price points makes it where ball pythons morphs are an incredible asset to the entire species.
Alright, who laid eggs? Oh, you. Speaking of blue-eyed Lucy's, this is really cutting edge stuff that I'm showing you guys here.
These are green-eyed Lucy's.
Actually, let me go grab a tub real quick. He didn't leave me any tubs. Come on here. Sometimes he'll leave me like a preset tub. Nope. Oh man,
Oh,
look at these ones.
That's
These
nice.
ones we can crack open and fry later. So a girl gave us, holy crap, 7 duds and 6 good eggs.
Oh,
So I was like, yeah, I was like, holy crap. Because the first 7, like the first 7 we pulled, we're like, son of a. And then all of a sudden she like keeps spitting them out, and I'm like, you know, that could have been a really nice clutch. Yeah.
So with all those out of the way, the one point that I do agree on when it comes to the people saying that ball pythons are not good beginner pet reptiles is that they have a problem with the implied purpose when you say that something is a beginner reptile. And their argument is that beginner reptile implies that they are disposable, that you are going to get it initially as you are just getting into the reptile hobby, and if you get out of the reptile hobby, it's okay if you get rid of that animal or whatever happens to the animal because it was just a beginner one and you are just dipping your toes in the hobby to begin with. Or that if you really, really like the reptile hobby, that it is implied that you will eventually step beyond ball pythons and go into maybe a harder to keep species or a rarer species. And either direction, it means that the value of the ball python as a species is diminished, and they have a problem with this. And in a way, I 1000% agree with them. For us, the majority of the animals that we keep are ball pythons, but we also have a Brazilian rainbow boa and red-eyed crocodile skinks. But in my opinion, even with these other species, and we've kept other boa species and Pac-Man frogs in the past, the ball pythons are my favorite. So I don't view them as a beginner species that we need to move on from later on. Instead, it is what I am really, really passionate about and what I love. And there is nothing wrong with loving ball pythons like this, even though when it comes to the reptile hobby, it is not uncommon for people to try to gatekeep the reptile hobby and say things that if you only have ball pythons, you're not a true reptile lover, which is something I completely disagree with. So I do 1000% agree that there is an issue with the implication that beginner reptiles are disposable and that they are something you should move on from, because there is nothing wrong with keeping a ball python, and that is as far as you get in the entire reptile industry. Anyways, we hope you guys enjoyed the video, and if you did, please leave a comment down below on whether or not you think that ball pythons are good beginner pet reptiles, and if you don't think they are, leave your reasonings down below. But regardless, we will be back here next Wednesday for another ball python video. We'll see you then.